Welcome to CBS Sports HQ Football Happy Hour. I'm Jenny Dell here, and we are kicking it off with our two Ryans, not just one, but we've got two. We've got Ryan Wilson and Ryan Harris. We're going to have some fun at the start of this hour. So we're going to listen to some sound bites from today's mini camps and some from OTAs, and we're going to dissect them together. So first off, we're starting with the 49ers opening up their minicamp today. Receiver Deebo Samuel did report. Now, Samuel requested a trade in April. He skipped the voluntary OTAs. He's looking for a new contract as he heads into that final year of his rookie deal. So let's hear what Kyle Shanahan had to say to kick minicamp off.
I mean, I don't think the relationship was ever too far away to not get it back to normal, and I think we're working on that. Anytime you're away from each other for a while, that's always harder, but it's good to get him back in here and start getting him around the guys again. I'd think of a relationship with someone that has to do with him and me, not statements, not Instagram, not people repeating stuff. It has to do with the words that come out of my mouth to a man and him back to me, and nothing else. And that's never been a problem with me and him.
All right, Ryan Wilson, we are going to start with you. Your thoughts on Deebo showing face at Niners minicamp?
Well, a couple things. It feels almost like a romantic comedy the way Kyle Shanahan was describing it. The absence makes the heart grow fonder. Now that they're back together on the field, everything's normal as it should be. And I think part of the issue with Deebo is that he wants to get paid, understandably so. He was incredibly important to that offense last year. But he also isn't a quarterback. So it's sort of hard to hold out and have any sort of long-term leverage. You can certainly voice your opinions either through social media where you take your team's name off your bio or by saying it outright. And I think Deebo made his point, and I'm sure his folks are talking to the 49ers folks to try to work something out. But in the meantime, he's showing up for work and putting in, the good faith ability to be at work and earn that payday. I think it's also incredibly important for Trey Lance to get in that work with Deebo Samuel. They were together again. They were together last year, of course. But obviously, this is Trey Lance's football team. So it feels about right. It's the time of year where most people do show up. And I think Deebo Samuel has something to prove. And by showing up, he lets Kyle Shanahan and his teammates know, and the organization overall, that he does want to get paid, and he's worth getting paid based on what he's done for that team.
The thing for me, two things are happening. Number one, of course, Kyle Shanahan and Deebo Samuel's relationship is fantastic because the coach is calling the plays that made Deebo successful. Deebo's really having a conversation with Mr. Lynch, the GM. So that's the big piece of this, right? The 49ers are going to say, oh, yeah, Kyle Shanahan, oh, yeah, I've had a great relationship with Deebo. Of course you do. He's not the one he's arguing with, right? So you need to get a new deal. That's the front office. And there's also this other piece for Deebo Samuel. Every veteran wants to know they can still play football in the NFL. In OTAs, you find out what changes every year in the game. Sometimes it's linebackers are faster. Sometimes safeties come down more. So he wants to just get a nice read on what it looks like to play football in the NFL this year. Also, to get your feet right. I know it doesn't sound like a lot to fans, but you got to get your feet used to being in cleats again. That's a hard process, and you want to make sure that you still have the ability to get open, and little things like that are confirmations for veterans. So I think Deebo showing up is more about him wanting to get some quick work in, and you can discount anything a head coach says about a player who wants a new contract because outside of two head coaches in the NFL, they're dealing with the GM.
You know, a player who's not getting his feet right now is Seahawks star wide receiver DK Metcalf, not present for mandatory minicamp. His contract talks have not resulted in a new deal just yet, so he's continuing to do his rehab from his injury in LA. I'll just go right back to you, Ryan Harris. Are you surprised that Metcalf isn't there?
I am surprised, especially because now with the departure of Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf's really a leader on that team, especially offensively. And it causes more questions. Does DK Metcalf know something about the quarterbacks who are there on the roster in Seattle? Does he not feel like he can get accurate work in? Is he going and maybe catching some balls from other quarterbacks he knows? So this is a unique situation. I'm surprised. And I'm surprised the Seahawks aren't doing more to make sure that he's at mandatory minicamps to be that leader they need him to be this season.
Yeah, Ryan, I think he does understand what's going on. He's seen Drew Lock play before. He's caught passes from Geno Smith in practice, and he's like, look, man, my foot's hurt. I'm not going to go out there and run some routes and then have to stretch for a ball and get hurt even worse. So I'm okay with him missing out on this portion of the preseason spectacle that is minicamps. I think, again, sort of like Deebo Samuel, DK obviously wants to get paid, and he may be doing the math in his head thinking, I had a lot better chance of getting paid when Russ Wilson was throwing me footballs than when two guys who are probably better served as being backups to Russ Wilson might be throwing me footballs next season. So there was the trade talks around the draft concerning DK Metcalf. He's obviously still in Seattle on the roster. He's currently in Los Angeles, as you point out, Jenny. I think he's going to take his time with this injury. He's not going to force anything, and he'll have plenty of time to catch passes from Geno and or Drew Lock in the coming weeks, even before we get to training camp there in July.
Talking about players getting paid, we got one that got paid significantly. Green Bay minicamp started today. Aaron Rodgers, he was taking part, something we haven't been able to say for a while. Reigning two-time MVP reported to the Packers mandatory minicamp today after skipping those voluntary OTAs. Got some work in with rookie wide receiver Christian Watson, among others. And all is looking well for the Packers. Now, head coach Matt LaFleur, he addressed the media earlier. Here's what he had to say.
The more these guys can get around each other, the more they can learn each other, the quicker they can start to develop that chemistry that's so important, that we know is so important in determining our success on the field. So I'm just excited that we've got him in the building and with these young guys, and we'll see how it goes today.
Ryan Wilson, we'll start with you. I mean, how much of just a deep breath do you think that the Packers are taking, that just all that drama hopefully is behind them? They got their quarterback there. He's showing up for, mandatory minicamp. Where do you think this goes for the Packers?
It's funny you put it in those terms, Jenny, because I feel like that's the pep talk Michael LaFleur gives himself every day before practice, because he knows it's always something with Aaron Rodgers. And you can see the look on his face there, and I do wonder what he's really thinking. Like, is he ready to wash his hands of all the Aaron Rodgers drama, or does he understand that he has to put up with it to get the results that they've had the last 3 seasons? In terms of what that means for Aaron Rodgers, who has spoken publicly about thinking about retirement all the time. Again, something you don't want to hear if you're Mike LaFleur or that front office. He has a lot of new faces to figure things out with. You mentioned Christian Watson, the second-round pick that they got out of North Dakota State. He is an absolutely fantastic football player, insanely athletic, played FCS football, so that transition is going to be a big one for him. To his credit, he went to the Senior Bowl back in January and absolutely balled out. He looked like he could have played at Alabama or Georgia, you name the place. He was not out of place at all in Mobile. But there are a lot of other things to work out. Number one, Devontae Adams isn't there, and it's worth noting that Devontae Adams decided to move on from Green Bay when he knew Aaron Rodgers was coming back. He would rather be with his former college teammate in Derek Carr in Las Vegas. Are the Raiders as good as the Packers? No, they're a good football team, but they also play an incredibly tough division. I think Aaron Rodgers will use this time to get accustomed to these new players, continue to work with Randall Cobb, who he knows extremely well, and Amari Rodgers, who feels like a chance to be Randall Cobb 2.0. But again, I would love to know what LaFleur's thinking in his heart of hearts about this whole situation with his future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Well, the other thing that happens too, Ryan and Jenny, is when a guy like Aaron Rodgers comes, those guys have been practicing. They think they know what they need to do. And then Aaron Rodgers comes in for 3 practices and says, you've got to be faster here. You got to turn your head around here. Yes, the ball's not supposed to go to you, but I'm going to throw it to you anyway. I don't like the way you're getting off the ball. So now he's going to come in for mini camps and give each of these guys 5-6 reasons why they're not ready to start the season yet. So it is good for Matt LaFleur and the Packers to have that voice around, especially as young players. When you come into a locker room and you're seeing a future Hall of Famer for the first time, it's one thing to say, yeah, I can play with Aaron Rodgers, but it's a whole other thing to say, oh, that's my teammate. Aaron, what do you like on this route? So they're learning how to talk to Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Famer, kind of like Ryan and I, how we had to learn to talk to future Hall of Famer Jenny Dell as a broadcaster. But once you get that rapport, then good things start happening. But a great player like Aaron Rodgers, he's showing up just to show these guys, you better be working this offseason, because however far you think you are, whether it is Amari Rodgers or Watson, you've got a long way to go before we start talking about winning a championship together.
I know, seriously. I know when we were talking about this segment earlier today, you're like, yeah, I can work with Jenny Dell. Like, I can ride with her, but then push comes to shove, and you're like, wow, I got to put the level up way higher.
Raise
just
it up.
because, yeah, Hall of Famer right here. Watch out now. All right, we'll talk about future Hall of Famers. Well, we got to talk about Tom Brady. So the Bucs, they got things rolling today, coming off that Super Bowl loss to the Rams. Tom Brady's retirement announcement. Obviously, we made a huge deal about that. Well, running back Leonard Fournette had a feeling that Brady would be back. So Fournette told reporters he thought Brady could return for another season following a little conversation that the two had shortly after the loss. Take a listen here.
I was just shopping around, man, just seeing what best fits me, you know, and when he signed back, he called me. He's like, man, what your ass doing up there, man? I'm like, yeah, trying to figure some things out. So he signed back, and it was no brainer, you know, why wouldn't I go back? He hasn't lost a step, man. I mean, he is who he is. Like I said to a lot of people, you know, like I go somewhere, you know, on a plane, traveling. Somebody say, man, I don't like that guy, Tom Brady. I'm like, you don't know him. Like, you don't like him because he's a winner? But personally, you don't know him. And just me being alongside him these 3 years, man, I wouldn't want any other guy back there with us. You know, he deserves everything he's got that's coming to him. And, I mean, I'm just proud of him.
All right, I just got to say, anyone that says they don't like Tom Brady is just jealous. They're just plain jealous. All right, Ryan Harris, we're going to start with you, though. You know, Fournette saying that he knew he was going to come back and have success with Brady. That's what they're looking for next season. So what's your outlook for Fournette in this Tampa Bay offense this season?
I think Fournette has a career year. He had just over 800 yards last year. And one of the things with Tom Brady coming back, especially missing maybe at least a couple weeks of his offseason routine, he's going to be looking for someone to take some of that load off of his shoulders to start the season. I think you get a career year from Leonard Fournette, 1,000 yards rushing, maybe 10 rushing touchdowns if Tom Brady doesn't want to keep doing QB sneaks. So I think Leonard Fournette has been a really big piece to this Tampa Bay offensive success and really the team's success. Played a huge role when they won the Super Bowl and did play a big role as well last year. So I'm looking for him to continue to grow. And that third year, when you're with kind of the same guys, same quarterback, you start anticipating what they're going to do, which leads to increased production and speed for you as a player on the field.
Ryan, you mentioned playoff Lenny and how he emerged in that Super Bowl run. I think that's an important turning point in his career. He was a top 5 pick. Didn't really work out early on in his career. There were questions about whether he was overdrafted. He got to Tampa Bay, and at one point, Bruce Arians had to sit him down and say, hey, man, are you a part of this thing, or this is all about you? And I think Leonard took a long look at himself and decided he wanted to be a part of something, and we sort of heard that in those comments about how important Tom Brady is to that offense and how it encouraged him to return to Tampa Bay. And I think you're exactly right. He is primed for a great year. And we typically think about these New England teams with Tom Brady just slinging the ball over the yard. They ran the ball a ton, and this benefits Leonard Fournette. This benefits Rachaad White, who they drafted in the draft a few weeks ago, and to mention all those other playmakers are going to be involved. And I think that Fournette now understands that he's a cog in a well-oiled machine that is in a division where Tampa Bay is set up to succeed. So you go back to Tampa Bay, perhaps you take less money with the understanding that you're probably going to win the division. They're minus money right now, understandably so, and you have a chance for a deep playoff run in a conference, by the way, that is nowhere near as deep as the AFC. So it makes perfect sense for Leonard Fournette from his perspective. And Jenny, I am 100% jealous of Tom Brady, and that's why I don't like him. That's the only reason. Incredibly handsome. His wife makes more money than he does somehow. I mean, what's going on?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Anyone that doesn't like him, they're just us. Look at all the accolades. Look at his life. Look at his beautiful children, his wife. Oh, gosh, if we could all just be Tom Brady.
Miami Dolphins still in voluntary OTAs. New head coach Mike McDaniels chatting with the media today regarding his coaching style. He says he's learned from every situation he's experienced in football, saying, quote, I'm honest with deliberate intent and general purpose to help players get better. He also talked about preparing for this season, his first as a head coach.
We've had an off season that we've been fully committed. We've learned a lot. We've gotten better. I think that the coaches have done a great job, and the players have really attacked this off season, which I guess I would equate to the first quarter of a game. I'm comfortable to say the way they've worked, feel like we have a lead in the first quarter. What does that mean? Nothing. You know, there's how many games are you winning in the first quarter that you lose, and vice versa. So we've positioned ourselves to compete at a standard that we've said from the beginning that we want to compete at.
And taking a look at the upcoming NFL schedule with OTAs pretty much wrapping up over the next day or two. Mandatory minicamps beginning June the 14th through the 16th. And they have in earnest begun in many places throughout the league, with several of the biggest names reporting already, like Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay. You got the Hall of Fame game coming up August the 4th. That's the kickoff to the preseason, with the regular season kickoff set for September the 8th with the Bills and defending champion Rams. Bill Belichick continuing his vague responses when it comes to the roles that Joe Judge and Matt Patricia will be taking on as it pertains to the play calling situation. Reports recently that Patricia, the front runner to be calling plays for the Patriots, even though the last time he was with the team, he was the defensive coordinator. The New England media trying to squeeze anything out of Belichick today.
Well, we've had a lot of changes offensively in the last couple of years, and it's a good time to streamline things. We did that defensively a couple of years ago, and I feel like this is a good time to do it offensively. Anybody that's been here for 20-some years understands the process and what words mean certain things and what refers to certain situations and all that. Somebody that's coming in here, it's only been here a couple of weeks, wouldn't have any way of correlating all those things. And so I think there's other ways to sequentially teach them, as an example. So yeah, absolutely. We do that. We do that normally every year. But it's been more on offense this year. It's probably more on defense a couple of years ago.
All right, we learned nothing there. Our Jonathan Jones, hopefully he learned a little something today. I think he did. He was there with the Patriots today, tweeting here at Patriots camp where Mac Jones had a heck of a day. Sideline dimes and seam seeds. A lot more Matt Patricia talking to the quarterbacks than I anticipated too. Meantime, with the Titans, we have some answers in regards to Treylon Burks. The Titans revealing that he is suffering from asthma, which would explain his use of an inhaler and his inability to stay on the practice field. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel said the team was aware of that medical issue for Burks before drafting him. Vrabel says they're very confident he's going to be just fine.
Treylon's been dealing with a setback from asthma. How confident are you that Treylon will get that worked out and be ready to go for the start of the training camp in the preseason?
Yeah, very confident. We got a lot of confidence in all our players to prepare. And, we got a few weeks, quite a few weeks here before we do go to training camp.
Are you surprised by that?
Surprised by what? I try not to get too surprised, but I'm sure you guys will disagree. But
the asthma setback with Treylon?
No, and that's not, we deal with a lot of different things. He just, that's something a lot of guys deal with. Again, we've touched on this.
Not practice today. Is there a specific reason for that, and how do you feel about your first-round pick not being out of practice today?
He was unavailable.
I assume, did you guys know that he had asthma? Is that something that's covered?
Yeah, there's a long medical history, yeah.
Well, here are his fantasy projections. Treylon Burks, the first-round pick of the Titans, 57 catches, almost 900 yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. He is a top 50 PPR wide receiver right now, according to our fantasy folks. Moving to the Giants, Daniel Jones fully cleared for off-season activities. Brian Dable telling reporters that doctors have given him the go-ahead to participate, meaning the neck injury that kept him out of the final 6 games of last season should be behind him. But Jones headed into the final year of his rookie contract, and the Giants elected not to pick up his 5th-year option. So this could be it. Here's more from head coach Dable.
He's done a good job. He's really studied. It's different. He's opened up, I'd say, a good amount here. When you're installing a new system, usually players, particularly quarterbacks, just are going to do whatever you ask them to do. And again, it's really important for our coaches on the offensive side and the defensive side, but with the quarterback to get input and to figure out some of the stuff that they like, and some of it is a day of too. Let's do stuff that you don't feel comfortable with, and see if we can improve on those type of things, those type of throws or those type of concepts. So He's been really good.
Dable trying to unlock what the Giants thought they were getting a few years ago with a first-round pick in Daniel Jones. In the last 3 seasons, he is toward the bottom of the NFL in all the major categories: passing yards, completion percentage, touchdown to INT ratio, and passer rating as well. One thing he does do okay, rushes it all right. Except when he's in the open field and running away from everybody, then he falls.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.